Are you gonna continue your Yandere take now that the stream's up? Oh yeah, I just think that like there are very few actual IRL existing Yandere people, so it's not really even an archetype that's reflective of some hyperbolized element of the human character. At least not one that's very meaningfully present, you know? Like, there are crazy people IRL, but the Yandere thing in particular feels very anime. Whereas Tsundere, like, there are legitimately people like that everywhere. People who alternate between being kind of nasty and standoffish and distant, and people will be, like, quite nice. That's not uncommon at all, I don't think. It's just bait for incels with severe trust issues. Yeah, I think being into Yandere girls or whatever is indicative of, like, the greatest imaginable insecurity known to humanity or whatever. Like, it's just some unfathomable shit. Just weird. Like, oh, I want a girl to be so obsessed she'll kill people to be with me, or she'll kill me even because she's worth... Like, why? I don't get it. The intersection of suicidal ideation, insecurity, and super horny. Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm, like, grown up or whatever, but I don't like that stuff at all. I've long been bothered by how immaturely a lot of media handles, you know, romance and relationships. But anime definitely does it, like, the worst. Like, I unironically think that the sort of hyper-chauvinistic, mostly ironic Duke Nukem tier misogyny is preferable in terms of what it does to people's brains to whatever the fuck anime is, you know? I actually believe... Like, if I had a kid, like a young boy who was growing up, and I thought, you know, for some reason they had to get all of their opinions on women from one piece of media, and it could be either, like, the Monogatari series or Duke Nukem, I think I might actually have to choose Duke Nukem. I think I might just have to hope that it makes them gay or something, and that they won't bother women. I think that might actually be better. Well, the will they, won't they thing is one thing. I guess the issue is that a lot of anime... Have you guys ever seen The Notebook? I haven't, but I know what it's... Right, it's like a chick flick, right? It's like, oh my god, romance. Oh my god, destiny. Oh my god, they're to be together, but then they can't, but then they are, but then they can't, but the love is true. Like, that kind of stuff, right? The issue is that, like, at least The Notebook is marketed mostly towards, you know, like, older women, I guess. Or it always felt like a thing that, like, women 18 to like older would be into mostly, I think. The issue is that, like, anime, your average anime romance is more insane than The Notebook. Like, The Notebook, I think, is more tame and less saccharine and hyper fucking deterministic than your average anime romance. This is one of the reasons why I actually really, really like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know? I think that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood actually has a really realistic romance where you have two characters that are clearly just kind of into each other. You know, Winry and you know, Ed. And they're just kind of... Like, they clearly like each other, but, you know, they don't acknowledge it much, and at the end of the series, they just commit to it. It's, you know... There's essentially no drama, which I actually really liked, you know? If they wanted to, they could have filled Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood with just loads and loads of, you know, will they, won't they bullshit. It wouldn't have been difficult to do. Winry could have accompanied them on a few more outings, and maybe Winry could have seen Ed flirting with a girl or something that she perceives to be flirting and then gets jealous, and then you have episodes of the drama being heightened because he doesn't know if she... Like, that they could have easily done that, you know? But the show was so much better for not doing that. And since I've been talking about it more lately, you know, I'll mention it again. I think it's another reason why people really, really liked Witcher 3, I mean. Because in The Witcher 3, romance is actually a huge part of the story, but it actually, and this is pretty rare, especially in video games, feels like a decently mature romance story, if that makes any sense. As in, people behave in reasonable ways, the drama is sincere, but it doesn't feel like it's being caused by characters being really, really stupid. And people tend to behave fairly maturely with each other, or if they behave immaturely, it's usually acknowledged in the context of the... Wait, how do I rotate that bridge? Anyway, for those of you who have played Witcher 3, you understand what I'm saying, right? With regards to the maturity of the romance, at no point in the, like, 120 hours of playing Witcher 3 did I ever have an experience with Triss or Yennefer where it felt like basically like a sweaty 16-year-old was writing the dialogue. You know, it all felt pretty, you know, mature and reasonable. The fact of the matter is, and a lot of people just don't want to accept this, okay? But, like, I think the way we depict romance is really bad for people's mental well-being. A lot of the stuff that we depict in media is sensationalized and over the top, but it's done with stuff that is, as a subject, sensationalized and over the top. So a good example of this would be like war stories or like action movies, okay? I'm okay with an action movie having an over-the-top sensationalized depiction of beating up like a Chinese triad gang to uncover the legend of how my father destroyed the dragon's... Some shit like that. Fucking what? You can make that as exaggerated as you want, okay? I know what I'm watching. But romance is a part of everyday life. It's what we live and breathe. It's what we care about. So when all romance stories are people, like, being insanely, like, almost deterministically attached with these, like, weird all-or-nothing declarations of life and love. That's not what romance is for a lot of people. Romance for a lot of people, a lot of people, is finding a person who seems kind of cool or maybe hot, hanging out with them, becoming friends with them, having sex with them, and just slowly becoming closer and closer to them until you two are so close and so attached that you can't imagine life without each other. That's what it is. It's not about, you know, like, grand betrayals and dramas. It's not about, like, big dramatic moments or, you know, fights before the wedding or, you know, declarations of love being announced from a balcony or any of that other crap. It's just about the day-to-day process of becoming, you know, emotionally bonded with another person. And I think that's great, by the way. I think that's lovely, okay? I think that's wonderful stuff. Now, there's nothing wrong with the more Romeo and Juliet super over-the-top crap. I'm not saying that's inherently bad. I'm just saying it gets a lot of people really depressed when they don't see that Disney fairy tale shit in their day-to-day life. Most people aren't going to, because most of that, first of all, most of that doesn't happen, and second of all, oftentimes, it's not even good when it does. Having a big public declaration of love and bonding and blah-de-blah, that doesn't guarantee a stable relationship moving forward at all. You know, oftentimes the people who are the most passionate romantics in real life are also the ones who have like 6 boyfriends every year, you know? It's because they're, let's be real, kind of desperate and attached, and they'll look for anyone. And the moment they find a person who validates them, they will pour their heart and soul into it with no, I guess, consideration or... Yeah, like Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack, I guess, is kind of a pertinent example of that trope being criticized. People just lean into it with all their heart and soul, and there's nothing wrong with being really committed to a person, but there is something wrong, obviously, you know, I think, with being so desperate to commit that you'll overlook warning signs in people's behavior, or you'll just kind of throw yourself at anyone who gives you those signifiers. A good romantic is not necessarily a person who's good in a relationship. Does that make any sense? Being a romantic with the songs and the poetry and what have you, that's a quirk of charisma. That's a skill at making people happy, you know. But making people happy in big, performative declarations of love is not making people happy in a long-term relationship. Those are different things. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I like Yennefer's relationship with Geralt in Witcher 3. You know? They don't really have those big declarations of love or like these big, super saccharine this, that, or the others. A lot of it is just them, you know, they're kind of on and off again from time to time, but they really like each other, and they're good for each other. You know, they're good for each other in their company. And because of that, they just... They want to maintain that. It's kind of simple, honestly. And their love isn't born about through these crazy, stupid, over-dramatic declarations, but rather by how well they get on in conversation. Which, to be fair, isn't that the basis of all good relationships, friendship or romantic? I know I'm speaking as like a non-monogamous, like, you know, pan whatever, but I feel like most people should agree, like, at the end of the day, the best skill you can have with a partner is having a good convo with them. What could be more important than that? No, it's because a genie cursed them to be together. Well, that's the thing. In The Witcher, a genie did curse Geralt and Yennefer to be together, but eventually they got rid of that curse and found they still cared for each other, because they never knew if their affinity was a product of that curse or not. Which I also thought was kind of a good lesson, you know. If anything, the storybook affectation was getting in the way of the sincerity of their romance. You know, if your love is fated by the spirits or whatever, how do you know it's real? I think a good challenge to that concept. But yeah, communication is key. Communication is key, and that's the basis of all good relationships. But I gotta tell you, if you're a writer, you know what's really easy to write? Grand performative declarations of love. Easy as can be. You know what's difficult to write? Really good, compelling dialogue between two people who love each other, wherein the dialogue is the tell that they care for each other, you know? That can be pretty difficult to write, especially if you're not talking about side characters. Usually when two characters love each other and their love is just shown through their dialogue, they're side characters and the dialogue is sickly sweet, you know? They'll be like the couple. It's like they'll always be, you know, calling each other honey or baby or sweet cake or whatever, and their main personality trait will be being into each other. That works for a side character, but not a main character. So for main characters, you know, they don't want to put in the extra effort to develop dialogue that signifies affection without it being that stupid or that poorly written. I'm happy to hear that, Catboys. That you're moving away from the more toxic set of beliefs concerning how to hold a relationship. Good convo is great, but those moments of silence where you sit down and enjoy being there for someone. Yeah, I'm not talking about you guys need to talk all the time. I'm not saying that at all. I'm only saying that at the end of the day, the ability to have a good conversation is always going to be, at least to me, the most important relationship skill, and I think it should be to other people too. Because that's the thing that stays, you know? That's the thing that stays longer than anything else. That's one of the reasons why I actually think that women... You know how we make fun of women who will get with guys who are kind of ugly if they make them laugh? I actually think women are kind of being based there, you know? It's not exclusively a gendered trait, but it is a thing that happens. You know, being able to make a person laugh, or being made to laugh by another person, that characteristic can last until you both die. That's forever. That can be with you forever. Having a good personality, being kind to people, being able to talk with people, that can last forever. Appearances change. Interests change, hobbies change, and big performative romantic gestures don't stay. They're usually at the beginning of a relationship. How do you feel about a workplace culture of no relationship between coworkers? I think it's fucked. We already live in a world where, like, there's very little opportunity to socialize outside of your workplace, and it's like, oh, you can't talk to people there either. I think it's bad. Why no workplace relationships? Oh, because it might marginally cut into their profits if there's drama. I say fuck them, just keep things quiet. What is a PP? You'll find out when you're older. Thank you for the $15. I'm confused. Are you for or against workplace relationships? I don't give a fuck if people want to have workplace relationships.